Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So today's upload is going to be about the tropics, and there's definitely a lot of stuff going on. You've definitely heard about it, even if you're not up to date with weather on a normal basis. There's two potential systems that could be hitting the Gulf Coast. Now, there's a lot of misinformation out there, and there's a lot of people predicting this will get into a major hurricane, a Category 4 or 5. And just take it easy. There's still a lot in the air. And for official info, go to the National Hurricane Center and NOAA and the National Weather Service, and they'll give you the best information you can. This YouTube channel right here is not a substitute for this. This is just to give you a bit of my opinion on what's going to happen and kind of provide you a bit of the details. But again, it's very important to not try blowing this up and saying that this will be a major hurricane, as that could cause more damage than good. And by the looks of it, it most likely, honestly, probably won't become a major hurricane. But the chances, of course, are always there. Chances for everything are always there. Maybe tiny, but they're always going to be there. So let's start talking about this. Let's go to the National Hurricane Center. And again, I'm just showing you what they're talking about. This is Tropical Storm Laura. It's still a tropical storm. It's at 60 miles per hour right now, traveling across Cuba. So it's still, far away from the United States, and it's possibly only going to be reaching the United States by Wednesday into the Thursday timeframe, late Wednesday. So there's still a bit of time, and you can see that the National Hurricane Center predicts it being a hurricane, either a Category 1 or a 2. Definitely not a Category 3 at this point, but again, that may change. There are some signs that this may rapidly intensify across ports of the Gulf Coast. There's some indications that it may not. There's still a lot of things that are up in the air, and as we get closer, we'll start seeing those details come through. So this cone right here is the cone of uncertainty. It's not the cone of where impacts are going to be occurring. It's not the size of the storm. This cone basically portrays where the center, the eye of the storm, if it's going to even have an eye, because an eye develops once a storm is very strong. But basically where the point of circulation travels. So it could travel across right here, this outermost line, and hit portions of Texas, or it could go through Cuba and take the more east and northeast route and hit Louisiana. And again, this cone will probably get smaller. Notice how it gets larger as we go out in time. That's not because the storm grows. It's just because uncertainty grows. And we don't know whether it's going to go into, once it makes landfall, it could go either up into Illinois, it could go through Alabama, and obviously that'll be decided on where it makes landfall. So notice there are tropical storm warnings across all of Cuba. There are tropical storm watches across portions of the Key West, the islands of Florida, if you will. And notice that right now, from this exact storm, there aren't any advisories or storms or watches yet across the U.S. That's from our another system, which is actually tropical Hurricane Marco. It is a hurricane. You can see right there, Hurricane Marco, 75 miles per hour. So it's just barely a hurricane, but it's a hurricane. It's moving at 13 miles per hour north and northwest, so not super fast, but it's definitely not stationary. It's definitely moving along, and it will continue to do so. It will not be a slow-moving storm. Let's go to the warning cone and static images. Notice that it continues to be a hurricane, and the National Weather Hurricane Center thinks that it will be a hurricane, most likely on landfall. But again, that is still up to change, and we don't have a lot of time between today and tomorrow when this could be making landfall. But it may not be even making landfall tomorrow, because notice the cone is still pretty wide, and this could take a track and really possibly not even hit the United States, or it could just directly go into Louisiana, or it could be kind of just trailing along the coast, and that would be kind of the worst case scenario, because then we could kind of see the impacts prolong, as when a hurricane doesn't stay kind of is half on half over water and land, it doesn't weaken as quickly, so it would stay stronger and kind of deliver more impact across a larger area, versus when it just comes right through, and it's intense and brief, but it weakens pretty quickly. So there's still a lot of varying to do, and it may weaken, it may grow a bit, but it definitely won't be a major hurricane. It looks as if it's just going to be a hurricane, but it still may go down to a tropical storm. That's definitely still a possibility. But I want to show you the wind speed probabilities out of this map. Notice that they are almost, very, very confident that portions of Louisiana will be seeing tropical storm force winds. These aren't hurricane force winds; these are tropical storm force winds, which is 39 miles per hour or greater. Now, in terms of hurricane wind speed probability, you can see it's much lower, and that's because, again, this hurricane isn't almost barely not a hurricane, Tropical Storm Marco, Hurricane Marco. But again, it doesn't have to be a hurricane force wind to cause damage. It could be tropical storm force winds, and that could be enough to cause damage. And I do apologize if I made that unclear, but this is the tropical storm force winds are at 39 miles per hour or greater. So it's anywhere between 39 and 75. So it could be at 39, but also could be at 60. That's still a tropical storm. So definitely still could cause damage, impacts, and definitely a reason to be prepared. In terms of the rainfall, the rain doesn't look to be out of control. We've seen systems that have had more, but definitely still 4 to 6. Definitely, I would say some pockets getting into the double digits are not out of the question. You can see at local point, maximum rainfall may be higher than showing, and they are showing a few little speckles of the 6 to 10 inch range, which we'll definitely have to watch. But overall, definitely a good dose of rain for the Gulf Coast states, and hopefully it doesn't really strengthen as that would obviously cause more damage. This is the peak surge. You can see 4 to 6 feet. That is relatively moderate. That's not extremely. Any storm surge is pretty bad. So definitely that's also something we'll have to watch. But again, nothing completely out of the ordinary in terms of a hurricane situation. Like Hurricane Katrina, there was a much greater storm surge, and some people, are seeing New Orleans hurricane watch. Oh gosh, we're getting that again. No, this is just a barely a hurricane. This really doesn't look to intensify. I'm showing you the Weather Channel graphic. Now, they don't make their own graphic. They take this information right off the National Hurricane Center, so you could see that right before landfall, possibly it's going to be just at a hurricane status, and probably if it just keeps going offline, it'll just continue weakening. It seems to be that case. But again, there is still a possibility this could be stronger. So just, I need to make this emphasized. Go to the National Hurricane Center, keep up with the updates. Even the Weather Channel is a good source. They definitely do a good job of this, covering this. And Hurricane Marco, you can see that's what it is right now. As of 4 o'clock in the afternoon, Central Standard Time, we have hurricane warnings across really the most outer areas of Louisiana, kind of like the Mississippi Delta, if you will. And then we also see tropical storm warnings. We don't see any hurricane watches. Most of those would be already hurricane warning. And we also see tropical storm watches just in case this maybe go a little bit further to the east. And that's definitely still a concern. And then this one's a bit more of a concern. You can see tropical storm Laura, as of now, to tropical storm. It decided to go a bit further to the south, and really what that allowed it to do is kind of get more potentially strong. And you can see that the National Hurricane Center, the Weather Channel portrays here, has this at reaching 105 miles per hour, so that's a Category 2 hurricane. So that's definitely would be a bit more impactful, but again, there's still a lot of things that could change with this. But I would say this one is definitely a bit more iffy. This one could be definitely a bit more dangerous. So, even if there's two storms that are barely hurricanes, they are really literally on top of each other. So, if you get 4 to 5 inches of rain from tropical storm or Hurricane Marco, or tropical storm, depends. There's still, it may or may not be a storm or a hurricane by the time it landfalls, wherever that may be, because we still don't know that. But you get 4 inches from Marco, maybe like 6. And then you get another 6 from Laura, you get 12 inches. That's going to cause flooding. 12 inches of rain within several days is just obviously going to cause flooding. There's no way around that. And notice that for Tropical Storm Laura, there are tropical storm watches across the Key West. Really, they seem to be spared by that, because earlier in the forecasting time, yesterday and today, even earlier, it was thought that this maybe could go north of Cuba, but now it's going kind of to the south. And obviously, that's why a lot of this is still, getting updated, because if it were to just go right over the peninsula or the island of Cuba, that would weaken it and tear it apart to a very significant extent. But since it's going to the southern parts, it is a bit stronger, and it is going to maintain a bit more of its strength. So once it enters the Gulf, it has more potential, and that's why the National Hurricane Center has it at 105 miles per hour, which is a Category 2 hurricane. Could it go into a Category 3? Possibly, really, but but again, there's so much stuff in the air that it's just best to keep it, not to keep those words out of the mouth, and just stay prepared like if it was for a Category 3, Category 2. There's nothing wrong with that, but again, don't panic. And of course, for official info, go to the National Hurricane Center, as they will give you if you need to evacuate, what you have to do. So that is definitely the best website. And all you have to do to find that is type in nhc.noaa.gov, and you'll find that. So that is definitely a concern with this, just the uncertainty, and of course with the pandemic going on, we may be looking at a bit more of a interesting situation, a bit more dangerous. Let's look at some of the models, see what they're showing. Yesterday it was interesting. So the European model showed yesterday's this tropical storm Laura at a very strong intensity. Notice this is let's go up here. This is Tropical Storm Marco right there. Really just, it doesn't take much strength into it. And then we have Tropical Storm Laura, which really is, the European model just barely keeps it strong to even be considerable. But notice it's just very weak at 1,030 millibars of pressure. And the point is, if you were to look at yesterday's model run in the evening, Tropical Storm Laura was 957, just a beast of a storm, which again goes to show you that the models are kind of all over the place as well. So that is definitely a bit interesting to see how they are jumping around. Usually we don't see such, I guess, vigorous jumping around, so not that far out. Notice this is the GFS, the latest model run of the global forecasting system. Notice this is Tropical Storm Marco. It keeps it weak, doesn't really keep it strong. Hurricane, tropical storm, definitely still worthy to be prepared for. Most models are having it hit Louisiana and Texas, but again, it's still not all set in stone. This could definitely still change. And then you can see Tropical Storm Laura then evolves into a hurricane, according to the GFS, and actually becomes pretty powerful, pretty strong storm, hitting kind of like anywhere between, again, Louisiana and Texas, those areas. And I know that's a huge range, but unfortunately, that's just what we have at this point, and I can't give you more info. So that is definitely interesting, and I'll have to see what that does. And some of the hurricane models are also keeping some of these storms at some pretty tough rates or intense rates. You can see that HWRF has it very strong, but this model has been doing that all along. Whether or not that will happen, we'll have to see, possibly. Again, though, this is probably definitely the more extreme of the scenarios, and you can see that this model right here just, again, keeps it at a pretty strong rate. And that would obviously be the worst case scenario, but we're hoping that that does not happen, and it's more of like a European-like scenario. But again, watches, hurricane warnings, hurricane advisories, all that good stuff are issued. So there's gonna be 1-2 punch. They're definitely most likely gonna impact the United States in some form. Marco is already impacting with showers, storms, and will be making landfall tomorrow. Possibly, it may just stay off coast, but it will be nearing the U.S. over the night hours. So definitely stay alert. And then again, Tropical Storm Laura a couple days later, maybe hitting similar locations, and it probably will be hitting as a hurricane. So definitely a bit concerning, but we'll have to do with what we have. And again, official info, National Hurricane Center, NOAA, and check out a lot of these things. You can see the wind speed probabilities, flash flooding potential, peak surge, and all of this stuff, arrival time of winds. So definitely good stuff, and consider checking that out. So I'll catch you all guys in the next episode. See ya. Bye.